When I was growing up, the Super Bowl was in January, now it's in February. In the old days, the NBA Finals finished in April. Now it goes deep into June. MLB's opening day for decades was the middle of April, now it's March. As far as March goes, the NCAA basketball tournament used to be done and over with in the month of March. So here we are. It's my March Madness Finals show, a full week into April. I didn't start the show by saying this is another player coach episode because I know that my intro and my buttery tone would not be enough to keep you from the allure of Korean TikTok girls dancing in plaid skirts. I get it. But then again, it's only human nature to look at people that are different than you with skepticism. That's not racist. Nor is it when walking down the street that instead of walking through a group of black teenagers, I choose to cross the street. People from other countries and parts of this one have different lifestyles and eating habits that vary from ours. Some grocery shop at wet markets, then come home for a little puppy succotash. But over the years, I've noticed that once you get to know somebody and find out that besides eating monkey brains in their country and some guys over here cover their wives head to toe in material, that we can all get along around town and at work. But it's all about assimilation within your community and being respectful by not bringing Ebola into my neighborhood after visiting your family. Or making my 4-year-old excited for candy every time he sees your old lady covered in a sheet looking like a Halloween ghost. For the ladies here in the U.S., it doesn't matter where you rank on a scale of 1 to 10, you have the right not to be covered. Because where I'm from, we don't cover our wives in 2 bolts of material, and we pet our dogs. We don't put salt and pepper on them. A bolt of material is 100 yards long, so saying 2 bolts means she's not only ugly but fat. They say it's not good if you have to explain the joke. It's a real momentum killer. So now that I've accomplished that, I'll start the show. So let's go. Rene Anthony Herrerias goes by Rene and is a local San Francisco boy born in the city by the bay, 1926, and played high school basketball at the famed St. Ignatius Prep School, known around here since 1855 as SI. Famous for basketball and attended by who's who of future important Americans. In 1944, Rene joined the Navy as a 5'9", 160-pound 18-year-old right out of high school, and was away from home for the next 3 years while serving his country. Upon his return, stayed local, attending USF between 1947 and 1950, playing guard on the Dons basketball team under Hall of Fame coach Pete Newell. Rene had such a baby face that he'd get mistaken for the ball boy, and that's after being in the military for 3 years. Opponents found out when going up against the so-called babyface that this guy was gonna play hard, almost like he'd been in battles before. He'd delight the home fans with his flashy play, as well as in New York when the USF Dons were at the Madison Square Garden and won the 1949 NIT National Invitation Tournament, with Kentucky winning the NCAA championship. This is a few years before March Madness. For his play in the 1950 season, Rene received All-American Honorable Mention, despite being one of the smallest guys on the court. This was evident when Sport magazine put Rene on the cover of the January 1950 issue, being dwarfed by teammate Don Lofgren. 15 years later, another great photo shows Coach Herrerias sitting on top of a 6-foot ladder next to his 7-foot center, John Wardell. Upon graduating USF in 1951, he returned to St. Ignatius to teach history and typing, taking over as coach of the basketball team with the departure of Hall of Fame coach Phil Warpert, who left SI to coach the USF Dons. During his short time at SI, Coach Herrerias led the Wildcats to 4 state titles and were back-to-back winners of the Tournament of Champions, 1954 and 1955, leaving SI after the 56 season, heading over to Cal to join his old USF coach, Pete Newell, who is now coaching at Cal. Rene Herrerias was a great assistant coach and scout, traveling to future Pacific Coast Conference opponent games, taking notes with pen and paper, then calling back to Berkeley with his report in time for practice. Much appreciated for a preparation-obsessed coach like Pete Newell. Reports included tendencies, strengths, and weaknesses of individual players, and team strategies. The Bear Cagers from the 1959 NCAA championship team stated that these tips helped them immensely, and some of them say they couldn't have won without the scouting of Coach Herrerias. Their time together produced some of the best teams in the country. 3 straight Pacific Coast Conference titles, 1959 NCAA champions, and runners-up in 1960. After the season, Pete Newell took a position as Cal's athletic director, and Rene was promoted to head coach and would be for the next 7 seasons, with the 8th cut short. Coach would leave the school with a record of 97 wins and 101 losses. Not a Hall of Fame caliber career, but different players at a different time. Rene resigned partway through the 1968 season for reasons similar to what happened to Don Nelson. In 1994, Warriors rookie Chris Webber thought he knew more about coaching than all-time top 10 Hall of Fame coach Don Nelson. Chris was not happy having to play center. His attitude disrupted the team. He waived his contract and was traded after 76 games. Coach Nelson saw the writing on the wall, and that the players are now going to run franchises, and in the future, the league. 2 months later, Nelly quit, and the team wouldn't be relevant for 12 years. This changed the player-coach dynamic in the NBA, I say. 25 years earlier, in 1968, Coach Herrerias was going on his 8th season as Cal's head coach when a black player violated a team training rule and wasn't happy when Coach suspended him. He was reinstated 3 days later, but this player rallied the other black players against Coach, forcing players to choose sides, causing tension, escalating a simple situation to the point where Coach Herrerias was forced to resign, as he said, for the good of the school. Coach had many more people siding with him than against him, including Pete Newell, who quit his job at Cal. So 2 men had to get new jobs because the racial climate was just too hot. 1968 was a time of heightened tensions in the U.S. amongst many groups for many reasons, and was even worse in Berkeley. But a coach disciplining a player for breaking a team rule should not get forced out by a few players and those running the school who don't know what it's like to coach sports. It's not like a classroom. Same school, same student, but the methods are totally different. As a student, you sit and hear. Whether you learn, it's up to you, and it only affects you. On a team, you have to put into practice what you learn in order to function as a unit. And if you don't, you get hollered at by the coach in front of everybody, or benched, or cut. Every sport you played as a kid, the coach yelled when things went wrong. And when high school rolled around, you knew what to do so as not to get yelled at. You get with the program, son. Sports is different than civil society. Sport is not civil, during the game or at practice. Most coaches are hot-tempered with no time to waste on outside distractions, and yelling is part of coaching. Of course, yelling at black players in 1968 didn't go over very well, even if, as they say, Rene was a minority himself. It's hard to change your coaching process mid-career, and some coaches are forced to retire for health reasons, like Pete Newell, who poured pots of Hills Brothers coffee on top of his 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day he burned as his stress relievers. Doctors told him the combination of the 3 was going to kill him. So he chose vending machine coffee and smokes, finding it much easier to quit coaching than the other 2, and instead took an admin job. Rene Herrerias left that crazy 1968 Berkeley scene, taking a job closer to home at El Camino High School in South San Francisco, teaching history and coaching basketball. Nowadays, I can't say for sure, but you might catch Coach visiting his old high school, SI, or at USF, where in 1959 Rene Herrerias was inducted into the USF Hall of Fame as a player. Or maybe he's checking out practice over at Cal, because Rene Herrerias is 98 years old. But 98 sounds old, but we've all seen those 99-year-old guys who move and think like they're 69. So with college basketball winding down today, I'll end my March Madness show in April by closing with another one of my themes lately, talking about brothers. It's only human nature to be skeptical of those not like you, especially if they don't look or act like you. America has always been a mix of nations, but a certain amount of assimilation is needed. If I moved to Germany, I'd learn German. In this country, we don't cover our wife in a sheet and we don't eat dog. But what I notice is people still see what they want to see through the lens of color and their hurt feelings. Actions they felt were directed at them because of their color when, really, it was their bad attitude and disrespect for all authority. Generations raised on being told every day that the man is holding them back. Racism is an overused word, a label falsely put on people when it shouldn't be, because it had nothing to do with race or color, but with that particular person's lack of creed.